world today continues to be one great mission field, even in countries that have a long history of Christian traditions. The late Holy Father, Pope John Paul II, once said, "It is not enough for us to discover Christ. We must also bring him to others."
And I actually fell in love with Japan because girls are pretty no matter where you go, drugs are pretty much everywhere, and music is music. And that was my life. That was my life. And so after 2 years living there, I basically just ran away and left, got involved with crime, got involved in a little way, not a major way, with an organization called the Yakuza, doing what in our country would be called felonies. I would have so much yen on my person. You know, those were the days when everybody had those pants that had way too many zippers. You remember those? Well, mine would be stuffed with just wads of yen. I mean, literally, I'd have like $10,000, $15,000 equivalent in yen on my person. I'm like 15 years old at that time, doing major crimes, causing an international scene. And during that time, my mother actually got deported, so to speak. She had to leave the country of Japan with my little half-brother, their son, my half-brother, because of what I was doing. Well, I didn't know that. I wouldn't have cared. I was running away on the main island of Honshu doing my own thing. Crazy lifestyle I was living, crazy. Lived in discotheques, had girls. Little cute Caucasian boy growing his hair long. You know, I'd tell him lies. I was a manipulator, a deceiver. I'd tell him I was part of the Bon Jovi road crew. And somehow either they were as drunk as I was because they believed it. I mean, I was just a manipulator. I got anything. I could look you right in the eye and tell you the most fabricated story you ever heard, and you'd be a sucker. You'd believe it. I was good at being bad. Well, I was apprehended. I was caught by the authorities, and I was literally kicked out of the country of Japan. Literally kicked out. In a certain sense, it's a good thing I wasn't 18 because I was only 15. They weren't going to prosecute me in Japan, but they made an agreement with the government that when I got back to the States, I had to enter into an institution, which I was not particularly thrilled about. So when I get back to the States, that's what happened. I went into my first rehab for basically everything. I mean, I had no social skills. I was an animal. They had to handcuff me to the plane when we left Japan, flew through Honolulu and into LAX. I was handcuffed to the plane. That's how bad I was, sick. I would exhaust my saliva on you because I was so foul-mouthed and I had no concern for anyone but myself. My unholy trinity, me, myself, and I. That was kind of what I had created in a certain sense. It was all about me. And so when I got back to the States, I went and saw my mother for the first time in like 2.5 months because I was in Japan, ran away. And I went to this rehab. I got out. I used drugs in the rehab. Got out. Dropped out of high school. Never finished high school. I don't have a high school diploma to this day. And started the same. Just to give you the brief synopsis, because there's a certain place I want to go with this that I find we need to hear today. Between those ages of 10 and 20, I had done on a daily basis, starting at around age 12, 13 really, when we went to Japan, when I went into major rebellion mode, opium, marijuana, alcohol was a given, and I'm not talking rice wine, serious stuff. Then when I got back to the States, LSD, mushrooms, crack, cocaine, uppers, downers. I ended up following a band, the Band of Bands, the Grateful Dead. I was a deadhead. I have the Steal Your Face tattoo right here, still there. I don't know where I got it. I don't know who gave it to me, but it's there. A memento from my past that I see every morning when I shave, still there. Earring, long hair. You don't have a projection thing. I thought they might. This animal that I'll show you is me. It's not a girl. I tell people, all the girls I knew were jealous, by the way, because my hair was longer than theirs. Although I had the worst split ends you could imagine, because I didn't cut it for like almost 8 years, literally. And my hair here is actually short. Hopefully you can see it. This is one of the few pictures my mother didn't burn. My hair at its total length was all the way down to my belt, my bangs and all. I mean, I was funkiness incarnate, man. I mean, I dressed like a Martian, talked like a Martian, my posture was shot, my brain was fried, and I walked around like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. I did. And I lived basically on the most unhealthy foods imaginable. I lived on Doritos, Mountain Dew, and marijuana for long periods of time. I mean, I was so sick to behold, I'm amazed that actually girls wanted to be around me. But, you know, sin is sin. And the senses, you know, crave, long for satisfaction in fallen men and women. So by the age of 20, I had done all that. I'd been in jail in this country too. As soon as I turned 18, I was thrown in jail in New Orleans, to my great shame, because I got caught shoplifting from a Piggly Wiggly. Hate to have that on my record. Piggly Wiggly, man. Busted in Louisiana, running from the law because I'm not hanging around for a dumb court date. You know, this is just a big rock going nowhere. Get out of my way. So we left, me and my friend who were following the dead. And I lived in a tree trunk in West Virginia on my biological father's land that I met for the first time when I was 18, conveniently, because I was running from the law. Lived on his property, you know, doing all my crazy stuff. And then I end up back home with my mom, my stepdad. I call him Dad now because I love the man dearly. And my brother. And my mom said the weirdest thing to me I ever heard, "Donnie, we've become Catholic." Whatever, you know. I didn't know what that was. No idea. And I just kind of was like, okay, you joined a cult. Are you happy? You know? No idea what this woman is trying to communicate to me, you know? Whatever. And she, you know, she's trying to do things to me to try and get grace to just kind of somehow just saturate in or something. And so I'd be home, and I'd come home totally, you know, gone. And I'd wake up, and I'd feel something in my pocket as I put my jeans on the next morning, like a smashed quarter. And I'd pull it out, and it would say, "O Mary conceived without sin." You know, ping, whatever. You know, what is this stuff? Or some funky dude under my pillow with wings that said St. Michael the Archangel. You know, what is this stuff? I'd go outside and crazy. Can't buy anything with that. And so I couldn't stay home because they're doing radical behavior, like going to church every Sunday. I mean, to me, that was like radical cult-like behavior. I was like, you people are nuts, and you call me weird? You know, I mean, that's just radical stuff. You people used to sleep in on Sundays and, you know, go out for a nice brunch or a drive or do whatever you wanted to do. This is crazy getting up at 6:30 on a Sunday. You know, I was like, you people have lost it. And I couldn't see that I was totally nuts. You know, so I couldn't live with them. So I went out doing the same crazy things. Ended up in another rehab because I woke up in it, strapped to a bed. My heart about ready to blow out of my chest because of the crack, the size of the crack wad, the ball I did. Just crazy stuff. So one night in 1992, when I'm 20, my dad goes out to sea because he was in the Navy. And by the way, he never got promoted again in the Navy because of me, because of what I did in Japan. And he had to retire early because of my stupidity. But see, I didn't care. It was me, myself, and I. So he goes out to sea on one of these like Mediterranean cruises for like 6 to 9 months or whatever. And my mentality, see ya. You know, now I only got mom to deal with. And, you know, she was rather easy because ever since she became this Catholic thing, she was just like so nice. My mother's like almost full-blooded Italian, you know, and before she would just smack the daylights out of me, you know. But she was different now. She would get mad, and rightly so, but she wouldn't like go off on me, you know, and I was just like, okay, she's not going to be too hard to deal with. Dad's gone, you know, all right, I can do what I want to do. Well, I was not prepared for what happened because after moving when they were there in Virginia Beach, again, right before my dad went out to sea, I was doing the same drugs, all that stuff, and to my great shame, okay, I say this not to boast, not to appear, you know, I don't want to glorify my sins because I'm going to show you, you know, I think I have already, the depth of the darkness that I was in. You know, I got an STD, not a doctorate in sacred theology, you know. This one was rather easy to get. One that you can get rid of, so don't be afraid to give me the sign of peace, you know, if you see me. I was sick. I was sick. I mean, my heart was so perverse, so lustful, just so gone, and my thinking and my ways of just being, man, I was just sick. And there came a point in March of 1992 when I didn't want to live. I'm 20 years old, almost 20 years old, and I'm sitting there in their house, and I'm like bummed, beyond bummed. I had had rock bottom experiences multiple times. You know, I'd had all that stuff. I'd been to the jails, the institutions, as they say, the next thing is death, and I was looking forward to it. Somebody who doesn't exist, because I didn't believe in God, get me out. Life sucks. Okay? That's what my thought was. I mean, believe me, I was like somebody pressed the delete key of my life, white out my existence. I went through a crisis of being. I had done everything sensually satisfying you could imagine, all over the world, because we traveled a lot in Asia too. You know, to South Korea and the Philippines. And I mean, I've been with the most beautiful girls everywhere. Everywhere. I'd done every drug practically you can imagine. And I'd listened to all the music, all the albums, every genre. I loved it. I loved it. And you know, I just came to the conclusion, it's never satisfying. How many times do I have to up the dosage of acid to get the high? What am I going to be eating sheets after a while? And what is it going to take to get the latest, satisfaction from an album? It's going to be great for a while. And then I'm going to have to, go steal another one. The latest song. Is this just going to go on for my lifetime? And the whole thing with, the girls. Man, it seemed like every other day I'd be like, wow, she's more beautiful than the ones from before. But then you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to meet another one who's I'm going to think is going to be more beautiful. And this cycle of seeking satisfaction in things that were just as temporal as I was sucked. I was in a crisis and I had nothing to cling to. Nothing. I was drowning in my being. You could call it a foretaste of hell. And I didn't believe in hell. And I panicked as I sat in my room. So I went out into the hallway because I didn't want to be alone. I couldn't be alone. Silence was loud. And I went out into the hallway and I wanted to look at like National Geographic, like pictures of monkeys, maps of Vikings, that I wanted to preoccupy my mind. Well, they didn't have it. And I didn't understand that because my parents always had yellow National Geographics. So I'm scoping for it. I'm not finding it. And then I find this book that's kind of looks somewhat like it, but it's different. I'm thinking maybe it's a special edition. And it says, the Queen of Peace visits Meju G. I'm like, what the heck is that? No idea. Queen of Peace. The heck is a queen of peace in Meju G, So I pull it out, and I look at the cover, and I see a cross, which immediately, I'm like, oh, man. This is the cult that my parents have joined, that they're paying some guy on TV whose wife wears way too much makeup a lot of money. That was my understanding of Christianity. I've got to put my hand to the TV and then fork over a lot of dinero. That was Christianity to me. Jesus for me was the great dork maker in the sky. Okay, these guys just turned me off. And I had relatives who were somewhat Christian, and they just, when I coughed, they wanted to pray over me. And I was like, you people are sick, what's wrong with you people? I didn't understand it. And so as soon as I see a cross, I'm just like, And then I see, like a big rocky mountain, and I'm like, dang, that's a rocky looking mountain. And I'm like, all right, what is this nonsense? I got to check it out and investigate the cult my parents have joined. So I go into my room, and I look at the pictures in the middle, because I don't want to read. I want to look at the pictures. And I look at the pictures, and there's these 6 little kids in like a little jujitsu move, like this, because I don't know what this stuff is. And they're looking just like, I'm like, the heck, See? They're waiting for the spaceship, to come rendezvous and take them away, And I'm like, weird, man. And I'm trying to make something out of this, and I read one of the captions, and it says, the 6 children are now seeing the Blessed Virgin Mary. What's a blessed? Anybody, you know? What? I don't know. Virgin? I don't know too many of those. Mary. Who's Mary? I never heard of Mary in my life. Now I'm 20 years old, an American, baptized when I was 10, validly. I had no idea who this Virgin Mary was. I mean that. Raw. And people, you know, like recently have said to me, come on, you didn't know this is the mother of Jesus? I mean, even if you're a total dummy, you got to know that. I didn't. I did not know. And one lady said to me after a conference, Father, didn't you see the nativity scenes in people's yards, you know, at Christmas time? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And I also saw the Easter bunny around Easter time and Santa Claus on people's top houses and stuff, but I didn't know who those other figurines were around the little baby Jesus deal. I had no idea. Angels or something? I don't know. Matter of fact, to my great shame, you know what I used to do? I used to shoot those with my BB gun. I don't know who these people are. No idea. Not a clue. So I'm like, whatever. So I'm like, all right, let's try and read this instruction manual. So I start reading it, and I'm lost. Lost. Because if you don't know Catholic language, you ain't got a clue. I'm coming across words like Holy Communion, Blessed Sacrament, Scapular, Rosary, you know, just this saturated Catholic lingo that's like, I have no idea. And this, you know, I don't even know what it was, a thing, you know, this Blessed Virgin Mary, I'm just like, what is it, you know? And how these kids say that they're seeing her, okay, it's a feminine, and she's so beautiful, the thunder claps when she comes from heaven, whatever that is, and the thunder claps, they can only see her, they drop to their knees, they cry, they say she smells like roses, and they're just like paralyzed in this posture of just like ecstasy. I'm like, man, I mean, I've put a lot of stuff on my tongue, but wow. Tripping, you know? What's going on? Because heaven to me was, you know, Led Zeppelin sang about it. You know, the stairway to heaven. You know, nobody, it was just something you talked about. Some, you know, nirvana kind of state or something, whatever. Or, you know, the whole hell idea. I was pretty much a friend of the devil. Hell to me wasn't a bad option if it existed, which I didn't think it did. Because, you know, there was a highway to hell, you know, AC/DC sang about, and all my friends are going to be there. All the girls are going to be pretty, and the music's going to be cranking. Right? Well, as I started to read through this, she was putting these things in categories that were a little like scary as far as their black and whiteness. See, I was like Mr. Gray. You know, I always looked at people who had black and white issues like, you know, as like total losers. You guys are weak. Those who are strong are those who are gray. Whatever floats your boat, man. I mean, that was my mentality. And this stuff was like a little too clear. I was starting to go into panic mode. Because I'm like, man, you know what? This will be really cool to believe that there's a woman out there that is so gorgeous, ravishingly beautiful, that when she comes from a paradise, that, you know, you drop to your knees, she smells like roses, and she gives responses like, I'm so beautiful because I love. Dang, I'd like a girl like that. Smells like roses. And I was thinking, you know, in my little badly formed boy heart, boy, that'd be something. And I just started reading and reading and reading and reading, and I was like, oh my gosh, if this is true, this is going to change everything. And you know what? Part of me, a gift from God, absolutely, no doubt about it, bought it. I mean, I started consuming the book. And I wanted to see this virgin so bad. I wanted to see who is this woman that is just so, how are they putting the terms? Sinless. You know, I'm learning the categories. I'm like, okay, I think that means she's good, very good, immaculate, you know, whatever that is. And these categories of just purity and love and just such a presence that's just like, wow. And yet I learned at the same time, this person, as awesome as she was not God. And I was like, good grief, if she's not God, then who's God? What's God got to be like? And that's when that whole Jesus guy came back in the picture. And she started talking about him. I've come to tell you that God exists, she said. God? What is God? I have no idea what God is. What is it? Who is it? Where? How? Why is he showing himself to me? And as I read these messages from this woman, things like, you don't have to change to love me. Loving me will change you. I never had anybody say anything like that to me before. And she seemed to be so convicted that she had some kind of special privilege to change me. It was almost like a bet, almost like a threat. I dare you to give your life to me. That's what I was picking up in the messages. Watch what will happen. You think you've experienced joy or pleasures? Young man, you don't know what beauty is. Now, those weren't in the messages, but my heart was picking that up. And it was as though every message had like my name in front of it. And it was clear as day. This is the answer for everything. And I closed that book at the wee hours of the morning. I read the whole thing. The whole thing. And so my mother comes down, and I'm noticing that red light's probably going to kick off here in a minute, so I'm going to kick into some other stuff quick. See, it's very difficult to do this in 45 minutes because there's just so much. So I go through this radical conversion. I'm talking divine detox, divine 2x4, spiritual kick in the pants conversion. I mean, God just nailed me. And I experienced some mystical phenomena that I have not experienced since then. I mean, radical stuff, where at my first Mass, I was just infused with Catholic knowledge. No one taught me. I just had injected into me spiritually Catholicism. I knew that I was not beholding a piece of bread, that what that priest was doing was a transformation of what was bread into the flesh of God. And the same thing with the chalice. I knew that that became the blood of the Messiah, and I had to drink it. Because, as I tell people, I had put a lot of things on my tongue looking for happiness. I drank a lot of liquid looking for eternity, and nothing ever satisfied. But here it was, offered for free. God become flesh, become my food. The medicine of the sick, the bread of angels. Jesus, sweet Jesus, through Mary. My friends, I became Catholic. I wanted to become Catholic like in an hour, after that Mass. I didn't know there was a procedure, and I'll go into that maybe tomorrow when I give my talk about the procedure and what it should be like and what it should not, because mine sucked. Okay, it was a bunch of people promoting their own understandings of Catholicism, crayon Catholicism and agenda-oriented Catholicism, mediocre, lukewarm stuff that the saints didn't die for. They didn't die to save a tree in Alaska. Saints died for you, for truth, for what our Savior died for our eternal happiness. And I couldn't even finish the RCIA program. I had to get out of it because I wanted the saints. I wanted truth of the Catholic Church. And I got it from the Filipino ladies. God bless Filipino women, I'm telling you. Salamat po. Yeah, God bless you. And so I had my conversion, became Catholic, and then those Filipino ladies said to me, "You make a very good priest. You make a very good priest." I thought they were nuts. They won't even let me near a seminary, right? Well, they did, and it took me 10 years because I had to get, all of my education because I didn't have DINK. And, everything had to happen. I can go into that tomorrow a little bit. And now I got, degrees coming out the woodwork. I got a bachelor's double major from the greatest Catholic university in the world, Franciscan University of Steubenville. Send all your children there. Please, please, please. I'll go into that tomorrow too, because there's really only about 12 Catholic colleges in this country, folks. Really. I'll talk about that tomorrow. So I experienced all that. Got all those degrees, got ordained at the National Shrine of Divine Mercy in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. Is that perfect or what? And now, the thing I'll leave with, because the little yellow thing's on and that red sucker's going to kick on any second. Believe me when I say that God is doing something so amazing in our day that he's raising up a broken generation of men. Definitely. We got our issues. I still got mine. Pray for me. I need conversion daily. As Wayne Weibel said, I need the sacrament of confession a lot. I'm a hunted man. But I can tell you this. I want to give my life. I want to die as a victim, as a sacrifice, as a priest, and fight off the wolves and be part of the John Paul II generation of priests, a battle breed. It's all because of her. I'm telling you. She did it. And she's raising up a lot more men. And I just believe that I'm at the head of this huge army coming on the horizon, my brothers in the seminaries. And I see myself spiritually blowing a trumpet. Brothers, take your positions. Arm yourselves with the weapons of war, because we're going to battle to save souls.